I did want to bring up kind of a hot take topic here.
Oh boy.
And mainly because I want to just I need more places to talk about this, and I feel like it's really not talked about. And I think it's a really serious problem. I'm getting really annoyed and frustrated with Proton and their marketing. And this has been happening for a while. So for example, let's really go back in time. So Proton releases Proton Pass. In that blog article on Proton Pass, Proton makes false and incorrect claims about the security of other password managers, like Bitwarden and KeePass. KeePass XC, which is a KeePass client, came forward and said, where are your sources for this? So Proton in a blog article made these other tools look not safe to try to make their tool look more safe. So the issue here is that Proton, whether intentional or unintentional, is now creating misinformation and misleading people and creating this fear-mongering that is discouraging people from using actually safe tools.
Let's all be happy at Google and Apple for doing what they should have done from day one. Yay! Yeah, actually, I'm kind of pissed about this story now that I've read it a little more in detail, because they should have been doing this from day one. And dude, this is one of the things that's pissed me off about the AirTag, is when the AirTag dropped, there were so many people, us included, and many other privacy experts and just technologists, not even privacy people. Dude, the whole time Apple was, for those of you who were there when this was happening, the whole time Apple's just this cool new thing, and you can put it on your cats, and you can put it on your keys, and you can put it on your backpack, and it's gonna be so awesome. And people are like, this is gonna get abused. And they just kept ignoring it. And then lo and behold, within the first week, it's oh, hey, this is getting abused for stalkers to track their exes and crap, and people to steal cars. And I think a few people have even been murdered over these. So I think nothing. I do remember now. Yes, at least several people have been murdered because of these things. So they should have been doing this from day one. And Apple did, I think before it came out, Apple did say oh, it'll alert you if there's one nearby, but only if you have an iPhone. And Apple in particular has been so resistant to roll out anything for Android. I think they finally did a couple months ago, right?
They did.
Yeah, but for the first year and a half, there was nothing. I don't know. To me, this is textbook virtue signaling of they should have done this from the get-go. They have been resistant to do it for over a year. And now they're just gonna be look at us, we're so awesome. We're so great. Aren't we benevolent gods? Screw these guys. I mean, it's good that they're doing this because it is desperately needed, but also screw you guys for trying to act like you're the good guys for this. You should have been doing this over a year ago. How's that for all the people that say that we don't give Apple and Google enough flack? There you go, there's your hate.
Richmond homeowner says that Find My iPhone app mistake was causing angry residents to come to his house. So this is from Texas, and they said that almost a dozen people kept knocking on his door at all hours of the day and night, claiming he stole their lost items because of what he said is a mistake on the Find My iPhone application. Scott Schuster, who has lived in his home since 2018, said this has been going on every few months over the last few years. Most of the people who show up are visibly upset or frustrated. One person caught on his doorbell camera even threatened to call the police. Schuster is not sure why the Find My iPhone application is pinging his address either. He's a software engineer with his own theories, but he has no way of knowing for sure. He is adamant that this is a huge mistake and worries that it could turn dangerous. He said he's just upset about the people showing up at his door because he has two young children, 7 and 9, and worries for their safety. This is definitely interesting because it seems like no one knows what's going on, and for whatever reason, Apple's Find My iPhone is telling people that their stolen items are at this person's house, so...
And our last misfit story, this one just came in. Recent iPhone thefts highlight the danger of using passcodes in public. Quoting the article, Wall Street Journal's Joanna Stern has been hearing from victims about a specific kind of iPhone theft. What's happening is thieves are watching for people to enter their passcodes in public places like bars before stealing the devices, sometimes right out of their hands. Joanna interviewed one victim whose entire digital life was lost after her iPhone was stolen, with thieves changing her Apple ID password within 3 minutes of taking her smartphone. They then stole thousands of dollars through Apple Pay, opened an Apple Card to make fraudulent charges, and more using the passcode they obtained. These thieves often work in groups, with one distracting a victim while another records over a shoulder as they enter their passcode. Others have been known to even befriend victims, asking them to open social media apps or other apps on their iPhones so they can watch and memorize the passcode before stealing it. A 12-person crime ring in Minnesota was recently taken down after targeting iPhones like this in bars. Almost $300,000 was stolen from 40 victims by this group before they were caught, unquote. Our last story says how a little-known iPhone feature is opening the door for cyberstalkers. And again, this is one of those things that we're sharing to make you guys aware. So there's a little-known feature on all iOS devices called Wi-Fi Sync, which essentially allows for a backup of the device to regularly be downloaded onto a nearby computer over a Wi-Fi connection. For most, this is a legitimately useful feature if you are worried about losing or damaging your device, providing a solid external backup that isn't just the cloud without the need to physically plug in your phone to your computer every day to create it. You just set it up once and it will continue to back up the entirety of your data every 24 hours until the feature is disabled. Sounds great, right? Unfortunately, this ease of setup and lack of maintenance makes it the perfect target for spyware providers and cyberstalkers. The solution offered by spyware providers requires the stalker to have access to the target device to set the connection up, but after that, the target device will provide a full backup to the computer using the same Wi-Fi network. An application on the computer then reads the backup and packages up all the information into a clear report for the stalker. Nothing needs to be installed on the phone itself, which makes it very difficult to detect. As far as the phone is concerned, it is just performing a routine backup. Unquote. The article goes on to give some examples of data that could be pulled using this method. It could include all SMS and text messages sent and received, including deleted messages, photos, website history, call logs, messages from other apps like Tinder and WhatsApp, and location data. Very concerning, and I guess if you think there's a possibility you might be victim to this, go ahead and check your iPhone settings.
Not enough? Because I can keep going, brick by brick, dollar by dollar.
And then what they're going to do is they're going to maybe move to Proton Pass, which fortunately is probably a very trusted password manager. What happens when, kid in his basement password manager that's developed in his free time, which doesn't even use proper security, what happens when they put out a marketing piece that says that, all these password managers are insecure, and it implies that theirs is secure? And then people start flocking to that. That's the problem here. There's this implication that Proton can't do wrong, and that they're the safe, trusted authorities, which I think is a dangerous place to start heading for them.
Can you use cryptocurrency for an entire day on a road trip? We're here in the Redwoods, and we're about to spend the rest of the day only spending crypto with CakePay. CakePay from Cake Wallet allows you to buy gift cards from over 150,000 merchants in the US, all with Monero, Bitcoin, or Litecoin, all inside the same app, and all you need is an email. This all sounds fantastic on paper, but Cake Wallet said, we'll sponsor you guys to try it out, and here we are, and we're gonna find out if it's actually that easy to use.
I have never used an Android device without a custom ROM until this week. But here I am to explain myself and my answers, and I hope that there are very important lessons for you all about threat modeling and how sometimes your worst enemy can actually be your friend. First, I want to start out by saying I am beginning to trust smaller projects a lot less as my journey continues, mainly from a security point of view, but privacy as well. So that's my first point. I have a hard time trusting individuals and even small groups to be running 24/7, 365 days to be able to give me those fast updates that I desire. To tie this back to ROMs, it's the same issue. All these ROM developers have to wait for the security updates to come out, and then they have to implement them. And while they can be very, very close, generally speaking, you're gonna be better off on security updates if you're sticking with stock. I also trust a company like Google to better implement any security and privacy features better than other ROMs, even though those ROMs might actually give you a larger number of privacy and security features, which I surely will miss from Calyx.
Proton is marketing their products in a very similar way to very less reputable software providers, and it kind of adds legitimacy to that whole tactic as a whole, I think.
Like you said, it adds legitimacy to the people who use this for the wrong reasons. And so we're going to start seeing more of that. And and we're going to start seeing more misleading things and more misinformation and more unnecessary distrust in the privacy community. But the actual people who like can sift through this and understand that Proton is just marketing fluff and being obnoxious, those are the technical users that are going to lose respect for Proton, including myself.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Those are the technical users that are going to lose respect for Proton, including myself.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
And so all of us who are able to see that Proton's just being annoying are gonna be like, this is silly, and it makes us even look bad for recommending Proton.
You have done that yourself.
And I also have a very, very minimal digital lifestyle. I don't do much with tech. And if it wasn't for Techlore, I probably wouldn't even have a computer, which is what I said earlier. So like, I just don't do much with my tech. Like, photos are the only thing that like I really need to worry about storing and doing something with them. That's really it.
Guys, math. It's math. Encryption is math. People can prove math, and you can trust the people who are able to verify that. So when people spout BS, like signal is compromised, you're effectively saying that math isn't real.
The other thing too is I'm gonna say something on my end that might be unpopular. If you're on Linux, you're signing yourself up for a more difficult time with really anything you're going to do. And I know the Linux community wants to fight back on that like all day, every day, but I think a lot of things are just more difficult on Linux. You're gonna have less client, you're gonna have less software compatibility with things. Not everything's like that, but a lot of things are. And this is one of those areas. I would really recommend something like a NAS, and that's why I think Linux is kind of like a slippery slope, because now you're on Linux, and now it's like, well, I might as well just use Nextcloud or like a NAS or something else that I also own and control, and before you know it, it's like a full-time job to have stuff like this. It's not always like that, but just saying. They put out a blog article, Privacy Deep Dives is the title of this, and the headline is, Apple can see everything you store in iCloud. That's it. That's a quote. That is the whole headline. No context, nothing.
Is this guy a retard?
In that same article, they then make a list. What is encrypted and how? Referring to iCloud. Some kinds of data are always end-to-end encrypted, even with default standard data protection. So in the headline, they say Apple can see everything you store in iCloud, and then they themselves make a huge list about what Apple actually can't see in iCloud. Effectively, the only 3 things that aren't end-to-end encrypted in iCloud with advanced data protection are contacts, calendar, and mail. They still have such a strong selling point because they can say, even with advanced data protection on in iCloud, we still have a selling point because we offer an end-to-end encrypted alternative that Apple does not provide. And even if Apple releases that tomorrow, they can still say, we're open source, we have a huge reputation in the privacy world, and we offer a lot of transparency behind what we do, which Apple has never really provided to that extent. And then caption 8169 asked about security for like banks and brokerage accounts, and we will probably get back to that in just one short. So we'll probably have 3 shorts this upcoming week before we come back next week for the next surveillance report 131. And this especially frustrates me because part of our job, you know this, I'd say like in a video, like the Synology review, maybe 5 to 10 hours went into like planning the review. And then that video was unique because it took months to actually review the service. But let's just say the actual review process took 20 hours. And then the actual like scripting and like recording process might have taken like 3 to 5 hours. And then editing it might have taken 15 hours. Like we're looking at like a 50 to a 100 hour project. But my point is at the very end, when you think everything's done, I have to spend like 5 hours sometimes. It depends. Some videos are 20 minutes, sometimes they're 5 hours. It depends on how challenging it is, but I have to find a good title and thumbnail. And on YouTube, you have to have a good title and thumbnail to get attention. What's really frustrating to me is why this is so hard back here is I have to find the perfect title and the perfect thumbnail that is attention grabbing, but not fear mongering, because I want things to be ethical. And we've had so many opportunities, and I say this behind the scenes sometimes. I think we can have 1 million subscribers if we just leaned into like fear-mongering and like ridiculous tactics on YouTube, because it would work. We would get so many clicks, we'd get so much attention. The Linux Experiment, who I love the channel, they put out a video covering the recent French case, the French situation where they arrested people for using privacy tools like Signal and Tor and whatnot. He branded that video saying they were arrested, but they were never actually arrested. And so he went on Mastodon and he's like, you guys have corrected me, the video title is misleading, and so he updated the video to better reflect the actual situation. We need more of that. The Linux Experiment has ethics. And when people step forward and say this is misleading and is going to cause issues in the long run, he fixes it. Proton's not doing that.
And it's crazy. I mean, it's just like you said, like the exact stuff that Apple is deficient in iCloud is Proton's bread and butter, right? Like there's no excuse to be posting things like this, basically. Because there are so many actual problems with iCloud, but them being able to see every single thing that you upload to it is not one of those issues.
Right.
So why would you bring it up?
And that's what's so annoying, because now, like, let's say Proton has any stake in how Apple can make improvements to iCloud. They just lost all their reputation. Because Apple's gonna be like, well, people just think iCloud's not safe. We think it is, so we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing. Versus if Proton came forward and said, here are actually some of the metadata concerns that still exist with Advanced Protection Program. They actually cited legitimate issues with iCloud's protection, which exist. Then it's an actual article with actual points to be made that isn't just a Proton hit piece. I'm beyond upset with Proton right now. It is awful. I have no other words to describe it outside of this is terrible. And I think it makes the whole privacy space look terrible as well, because now like people who actually are technical and proficient and who understand how iCloud works, as well as just how end-to-end encryption works, are going to see literally one of the biggest names in the privacy space, Proton, who in a lot of ways represents the privacy community, start spouting nonsense that isn't true. And it makes the whole privacy community look like paranoid assholes. But what I really want to harp on, I think I've already seen some people really run away with the story with their conspiracy hats on because they didn't quite understand how it's done. So I know some people are getting their conspiracy hats on and think that either A, there's some secret GPS chip on your phone, or B, they can ping your GPS even when it's off. And that is not what is happening, so please do not fearmonger and spread this around, because it's only going to scare the out of people.
3 weeks later.
A research story this week comes from a paper that says evil never sleeps when wireless malware stays on after turning off iPhones. When an iPhone is turned off, most wireless chips stay on. For instance, upon user-initiated shutdown, the iPhone remains locatable via the Find My network. If the battery runs low, the iPhone shuts down automatically and enters a power reserve mode. Yet users can still access credit cards, student passes, and other items in their wallet. We analyze how Apple implements these standalone wireless features, working while iOS is not running, and determine their security boundaries. On recent iPhones, Bluetooth, NFC, which is near-field communication, and ultra-wideband keep running after power off, and all three wireless chips have direct access to the secure element. As a practical example of what this means to security, we demonstrate the possibility to load malware onto a Bluetooth chip that is executed while the iPhone is off, unquote. Yeah, basically, researchers were able to upload malware to an iPhone that was turned off.
Guys, math. It's math. Encryption is math. People can prove math, and you can trust the people who are able to verify that. So when people spout BS, like signal is compromised, you're effectively saying that math isn't real.
This is just one of my frustrations with the privacy community in general, where people don't really seem interested in improving the things that we already have. Like, they've written off iCloud completely, so they don't care about privacy or security improvements that Apple is making to iCloud. And I think that's really unfortunate. It's an unfortunate position for the privacy community in general to take, because it discourages people from doing what Apple is doing.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Fuck you both.
I still don't want people using Chrome in most cases, but like for the people who are, that's a net benefit to them. It's a benefit to a very large group of people. Like, if we can make these small incremental changes over time to much larger services to be more privacy respecting, that doesn't take anything away from alternatives like Mull web browser, like Firefox. If Google Chrome gets better, or if iCloud gets better, that is not making actual privacy-focused products worse, right? And I wish that we were more encouraging of companies that are taking some steps in the right direction, even if I'm not going to go out and recommend iCloud Mail over Protonmail, of course. I would still like it if iCloud Mail was more private.
And,
that would just be good.
Like, what if they released that?
Right.
Yeah. It's a very fair stance to take, I think.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.